Welcome back to the NRL Punters Weekly Digest. My name's Ben, and in today's video, we are going to be exploring the question of whether or not sledging should be allowed in the NRL. And this is, of course, in light of what I'm going to call Will Chambers Gate, the famous Will Chambers Gate from this past weekend where the Sharks took on the Warriors and Will Chambers upset some Warriors players, to say the least. But before we go into this video, if you have not yet subscribed to this channel and you want to stay in the loop, you want to know when I'm dropping videos, the best thing you can do for yourself is to subscribe to this channel and turn on your notifications. And if you like this video, I would really appreciate a like. Let's get into it. Should sledging be allowed in the NRL? Okay, my answer to this question is yes, and I will explain to you why. Before we do that, let's backtrack a little bit and let's kind of break down what happened on the weekend in the Sharks-Warriors clash where Will Chambers upset a few Warriors players. So long and short of it is this, and I should disclose that I don't know exactly what was said between Will Chambers and the players that he annoyed, and I'm not sure if it's come out in the media yet, but long and short of it is this. Will Chambers upset 3 Cronulla Sharks players. Most significantly, he upset Kane Evans so badly that he managed to get himself sin bin twice. First time he upset Kane Evans threw 2 punches at him that connected with his chest. Now, I don't know why he wasn't sent off in that instance, but, that's a separate issue. He goes off for 10, comes back on the field, wants to get square with Will Chambers, puts in a head slam tackle, gets sin bin for another 10 minutes. You almost think at that point you are sending that player off, aren't you? Like, you sin bin twice in a game, surely you get the red card, right? Apparently, he also upset Matt Lodge, and I think it was Adam Fanua-Blake. Don't quote me on Fanua-Blake there. I believe it was him who was the third player, and I'm not sure exactly what was said between them and how that came about. I'll be honest with you, I only watched the highlights of that game. But it turns out that this is a major problem because not only has Will Chambers upset the opposition players, he's also upset his own dressing room who don't like his antics. He's been known for this for years at the Melbourne Storm. He was a player that wanted to get under other players' skin. It's just a part of his DNA, his makeup. That's who Will Chambers is. He's been a great player for so many years. I mean, he's really on the back, on his last legs in terms of his NRL career or his professional sporting career, let's be honest. But he has been a great servant for the Melbourne Storm, Queensland, and Australia in the past. Great player. A lot of people are not fans of sledging. Now, when we use the word sledging, it's got a wider connotation. I mean, in its simplest form, it's just a way of getting under the opposition player's skin, and it should be done in a sportsmanlike fashion. You might be thinking it's sportsmanlike. I don't think sledging is sportsmanlike. Well, I would argue that it is sportsmanlike. And I will use myself as an example. Now, whilst I was never a prolific rugby league player, I was a pretty decent basketball player, and I played basketball for years. I played at a high level. I even played for my university, QUT, at 2005 Northern Uni Games at Cairns, which was a great time in my life. I had a lot of fun on that trip. Now, it's not like playing college basketball, but, it's a decent level. I was playing with guys that were like semi-professional in Australia. So, decent level basketball. My style of play was probably akin to a little bit of Will Chambers' style of play. I like to get under the opposition player's skin. I used to do things that you probably can't get away with these days. I'd be like in the low post with my man, and I would do things like like grab his ass just to get under his skin and make him feel weird about himself. Again, things you probably can't do these days, but I used to do that. I used to like whisper stuff in their ear that would just like really annoy them and get them like into a push and shove match and cause all sorts of hysterics. That was the way I played. Sometimes I may have crossed the line, or I've definitely crossed the line. It was never something that was consistent, and it was never something that was done with malice. It was all about the competition. It was all about getting the ascendancy. I would like to think that Will Chambers is approaching it that way too, although perhaps at times he crosses the line. Now, when sledging crosses the line, where we're moving into the territory where maybe you're like racially vilifying the opposition player. Maybe you're poking fun at their sexuality. You're saying things about their partner, their family, their friends, things like that, their children. When you're crossing that line there, I think it should be treated in the same way that we treat, players that have done the wrong thing in terms of, vilifying fans or other players, or, how we treat fans that vilify players, from the stands. I think we should treat it the same way. It's an assault of sorts. I think that's the way it should be dealt with. And I think on the field, if the referee picks something up, they should make a decision as to whether or not it's going to be a 10 in the bin, they're going to be put on report, whether they're going to send them off if it's bad enough. I think a call should be made. But I think it's okay to be competitive and get under the opposition player's skin, as long as it's done within what's deemed to be, socially acceptable. But therein lies another issue, because what one person deems to be socially acceptable might not be what another person deems to be socially acceptable. So they've got to set up some ground rules there. I wanted to address, in a sledging situation, the inability of the person being sledged to be able to react. Now, Kane Evans, the way he reacted in terms of throwing the punches, now back in the day, that was allowed. It was like, look, you got your comeuppance. You got under this guy's skin. You pushed him too far. He had his limits. You pushed him too far. He punched you. Too bad. Can't do that these days. And we certainly don't want to promote violence in the game, because what we want to do is we want to put rugby league onto this pedestal where emerging nations and nations that aren't quite au fait with rugby league yet are looking at this product and going, you know what, we want that. We want to be part of that because it's a great game. The violent aspect of it, detracts from that. So we definitely don't want that in the game. You put yourself in a really difficult situation where you're put in a difficult situation where maybe you're not really articulate and you don't have a comeback, or you don't have a way of getting under that other player's skin. It's easy enough for us to say here as spectators, we'll just ignore it. Well, everyone's got their limits. You can't punch them, so you've got to be able to do something back. So that's something else they've got to address. And I don't really have an answer to that side of things. I know from the old timers that that's the way things were dealt with, was violence. We can't do that. But if you cross a line, then the player who has crossed the line should be cited for that. If they've managed to unnerve their opponent without crossing the line, and then they've crossed the line in a Kane Evans fashion, well, sorry, egg on your face. You deal with the repercussions there. Anyway, that's all I've got to say about this particular topic. I think sledging is good for the game. I think it should be allowed in the game, but it needs to be done in the spirit of the game. And that's all I've got for you for this video. Again, if you liked the video, please give me a thumbs up. Let me know in the comment section what your thoughts are on sledging. Maybe you've got some personal experiences from maybe a game of rugby league or another sporting contest where you had a sledging incident that went out of control or not the way that you wanted it to. I'd like to hear about that too. And I'll see you in the next video.